Welcome to How Women Inspire. My guest today is Robin Washington. She received our 2023 Get On Board Week Fearless Leader Award. Let me tell you, this is the woman we should all be looking up to in the entire world. Robin serves on the board of directors of Alphabet, Honeywell International, and Salesforce. And she is one of the women whose voice is changing our culture and the face of America's leadership. She currently serves as the chair of the Leadership Development, Inclusion, and Compensation Committee for Alphabet and is the lead independent director for Salesforce. Imagine being in those rooms and how important her voice is. She's also a Catalyst advisor with a venture from General Catalyst, focused on their health assurance thesis to create meaningful outcomes for GC's healthcare portfolio companies and communities they serve. Robin served as the executive vice president and CFO of Gilead Sciences, where she oversaw the global finance, facilities and ops, investor relations, information technology organization. She's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Executive Leadership Council. And here, all right, everybody, hold on to your seats. She is the co-founder of Black Women on Boards and is passionately, fearlessly involved in many initiatives focused on us, on the ascension of women and underrepresented people of color, minorities, the C-suite, and the boardroom. Robin, you're just one of my favorite people. I'm so honored to have you join us today for a conversation. Thank you so much for taking your time with us.
Thank you, Julie, and for all you do. I'm so inspired by the work that you and your various organizations are involved in. So it's a privilege to have this conversation. Very overrated by bio, but most importantly, I just
For
want
crying
to
out loud.
continue. I want to continue to give back and do well. I've been blessed in a lot of different ways. So really excited to have this conversation with you. And
well, this is
let's
the
get
thing,
started.
like the beginning of your bio makes you very, very serious CFO in these major public companies and corporate boardrooms. But your values, the way you show up in the room is what everybody remembers about you. They say it's how you make people feel, not what they
That's
do.
exactly right.
And I would just say all that is so incredibly impressive, only eclipsed by how you make everybody around you better. And the way people talk about you, we just know that you're influencing all of us to change it, but you're also fun. Okay, so can we just start off and say, share, is there a theme song or something that you like lifts you up or is like your celebration song?
I thought about this, and I think the older you get, the harder it is to have one of anything. But I remember kind of getting introduced to jazz, and one of my favorite songs is The Rainbow Seeker by Joe Sample. And if you think about seeking or rain, it's like the up and downs and the changes, it's cool. But also for all of those that can relate, and my daughter will be very happy to hear me say this, she's a piano. Alicia Keys, this girl is on fire. I love that song. I love the energy behind it, and it pumps me up. It's not to elevate you, it's just to let you know that you're making a difference. And it's usually kind of when I've been in a storm and you can come out of it, where you just, in the back of my head, whether it's Rainbow Seeker or that song, it resonates with me in so many different ways, right?
Well, can I say our life stage? Like there comes a moment where it's like, even the tough times, like, you know what, let's just we have one special life.
Yes,
And it would
exactly.
be
Put it in
boring.
perspective, right?
It would be boring if we didn't have those challenges, for crying out loud. So I love that. And we're going to put this in our Spotify group for people,
There
everybody.
you go. Yes, yes,
All right, I have some serious questions for you.
yes.
I would really love to hear a little bit about sort of you, when we were together in giving you the award, you were talking and giving advice to the women in that room. And I think I asked you for your script because I was like, I need everybody to hear this. Would you be willing to sort of kind of recreate that moment and share with us your real deep advice that you have?
Oh, wow.
For
I'm trying to remember, but I will share with you, slightly deeper. I have these, I call it my top 10 words of wisdom or phrases of wisdom. I'll go quickly. But if I just step back, it really comes down to using your own self assurance and your own belief in yourself as a driver of how you show up. And by that, I mean, one of them is just go for it, have a can do, will try attitude. Know that you are responsible for managing your brand, whether that be your career, who you associate with, who you partner with personally. You have to own it. One of the things I think we as women, I think I mentioned this, don't do enough of is network, put ourselves out there. We can come up with every excuse in the world. I used to do this. And then I started realizing it's part of my job. So network, 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 and think about who you don't know that you should know. I was talking to a woman the other day about getting on a board, and she didn't necessarily have a CEO or CFO background where a lot of board. And I said, well, have you done a little research to identify all the people in your chair that sit where you want to be?
Yeah.
Get to know them.
Yeah.
And she knew some of them, but she had never talked to them about her desire, about their story. So I think that's something that I think particularly as women, find allies. I think those are mentors and supporters. The other thing is just the self-realization that sometimes it's you. I think
Yes.
sometimes it's that voice in our head or our inability to see ourselves in the room that can be the biggest thing that decrements our capabilities. And I think we have to acknowledge that. Again, you own your own success. I know we're going to talk about leadership, knowing that you matter, and none of us do this well. It's a dance, but how do you find that balance to know that that moment, precious time that you can find for you makes you a better wife, mother, business person, you name it. So you do matter. Take care of yourself, know that things happen. And I'm sure this isn't a G rated, but shit happens. How do you
Yeah.
recover? How do you
Yeah.
pick yourself up? And in those times of those mishaps, for me, it's typically been on the other side of them. My greatest moment, that becoming comfortable in the sense of being uncomfortable, is when you cross that chasm, the feeling of success that you feel. I think that it's really important. I'd also add give back, be an advocate for yourself, but also for others. When you
Yeah.
find your voice, how do you support others? And then lastly, I'd say, and we talked about our age, right? Is finding that point where I'm truly feel like I can be authentic in any room, and
Yeah.
knowing that if I can't be my authentic self in that environment, it's not for me. That
That
is,
takes a lot of confidence and strength and
it's an
wisdom.
evolution. It was
Yeah.
an evolution
Yeah.
for me. That's why I said I had to realize and take into account my own insecurities. But when you can show up, it's something that I always thought about as a leader, that diversity of thought, that if I can make it comfortable for someone on my team or peer or in a room, you get the best of people when they
Yeah.
can truly be authentic and be in their element and feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a really important aspect, I think, for people to find that and think about their instinctive feelings about the people, the environments that they put themselves in on a regular basis. It needs to be healthy. It doesn't mean it needs to be
Yeah.
easy. It
No.
doesn't mean it's not going to be
Yeah.
challenging. I always tell people run to something, not from something. But I think you have to have this instinctive belief of, in this environment, I can thrive.
Everything that you just said is really so important, and it's almost muscle memory. You have to actually work on every one of these things that you just recommended.
Yes.
And to me, what you said is so important in that moment of discernment where you're like, this is not right for me, because especially if it's hostile. Deepa Purushothian did a book, wrote a
Mhm.
book on the one, the few, the many, and it talks about how literally it's making us sick. But if you think about even
Yes.
your brain space, having to constantly filter and protect
Yes.
yourself, you can't be your best self. There's no way you're giving your best self.
You can't be your best self. And back to, if I walk in a room and I'm so worried about that I'm different, I'm the only
Yeah,
one, I don't,
yeah,
it takes away from your ability to show up, like you
it does.
said, in a way that you can be at your best. And like I said, whether it's flicking it off, and but also asking for help, that
Yeah,
I need this type of environment, and finding that balance of, when someone asks you how can I help, or when someone asks you for that feedback, if you can point, if you can direct, if you can provide, there's nothing wrong with that, right? And
yeah,
it's our role as leaders to do that. But again, that self-ownership of, if it doesn't fit, if I can't get there, I think you have
Yeah.
to ask yourself, is this the place I should be?
Did you have an aha moment or a moment where you're like, oh, I better pivot my thinking or build that muscle? Was there something that like a critical moment or
Oh,
challenge that,
God, I think there were there were a lot. And
because
like I
it looked
said,
from the outside like it was super easy.
oh, no, no. I mean, it was challenges, there were naysayers, but like I said, I think for me, even in terms of pivoting, I was English to accounting, that was difficult. It was when I took on that threshold of difficulty that I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like I said, then became comfortable. It was when I got my greatest learnings. One in particular is becoming the CFO of Gilead. Remember, I was in the technology space for 20 years. And when I got the call to consider this role, I had 30 reasons of why I shouldn't do it. But a feeling of being in an industry and in a company that I believed in the mission, pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, and that own inner voice saying, what's the worst that can happen? And I
Yeah.
think if I hadn't listened to that or just had the space to really work through it, realizing that I could fail, and okay, if I did fail, what could go wrong? I mean,
Yeah.
I had a network, I
The worst
had
that can happen,
people,
I'll go get another job.
I'll
Right.
go get another job.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It was out of those 12, I think the first three were some of the most difficult times, which is why I said it doesn't mean the right environment for you is always easy. But I felt challenged. I felt rewarded. I felt that I got to contribute to a company that brought great value to the world through our science. And I have no regrets. And I learned a ton, and it positioned me for board work, leadership, and just getting outside of my comfort zone. And I do it all over again.
So technology to finance to being on the board of Salesforce and Honeywell. I mean, you actually have hit almost every part of life. What haven't you done? Manufacturing, probably. I mean, like it kind of, right?
Yeah,
And
I mean, well, I'm on the
like,
Honeywell board, and that's
yeah. So everything
industrial.
you
But
kind
I
of,
and that I think that back to, you talked about that aha moment. I think for me, I've always been a curious person, but I've embraced continuous learning.
yeah,
Back to, what environment do you thrive? I
yeah,
thrive in innovative environments where I'm challenged, where I'm learning, when I'm working with smart people on tough problems, but things
yeah,
that can change the world and make it better. That's me. I want to be in that environment. And they're not easy, they're not simple. You have to be nimble, you have to be agile. Things are always changing. I thrive in that
yeah,
type of chaos. And so those are the environments that I look for. And I
yeah,
don't pigeonhole myself. Like I said,
yeah.
I'm a better finance person because I embrace myself in learning different business models.
Well, but the
That's
common
not
theme
the
is,
place for everybody.
yeah. Well, the common theme of all of this is not what you know how to do. It's really your leadership. It's you as,
Yes.
I mean, if you look at America's great leaders today, you're at the top of the list. And so for all the women leaning in right now, like, how do I lead like her? How do you lead? This is a big question, you know?
It's a great question. And thinking about the answer, I remember earlier in my career where I measured my success somewhat by title or how many people, I'm a manager. And fortunately, I worked in a great company early in my career, Tandem Computers, where the value was getting a diverse set of experiences and you were moved constantly. And so, what I started to realize, that breadth of experience was equally and more important than titles and depth. And one of my greatest jobs was when I was taken out of a manager role to an individual contributor role, but working with people at 3 to 4 levels above me. And I had to learn how to manage without authority. So you're influencing
Yes.
versus telling people what to do. It wasn't easy, but it really was one of those moments, pivot points, where it really taught me learning how to focus on developing my soft skills, back to being a continuous learner and managing outside of my comfort zone. And I think when you're leading people, the higher you go, you're managing activities and response that are way outside of your core expertise. So if you can't be agile and strategic and build a team around you where there's mutual respect, diversity of thought, it's less about managing, more that you're inspiring, you're leading, you're setting the direction, and then candidly, you're getting out of their way and supporting them. And I think that's how I learned to lead because I got moved to things that I didn't know how to do. So I had to learn
You
how
had to
to.
trust the people that they knew the job, like,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah.
I think it's leading from the front and being an inspiration and being purposeful and knowing that I was talking to one of the CFOs I work with today, and it's like, okay, it went wrong, but the person's got to know you got their back and you're supporting them. Now, you have to trust and verify. That's your job. You're going to
Right.
have to take the bullet. But going forward, if they know that you're supporting them through that, they're going to appreciate you as a manager and you're going to gain loyalty. But you're also, like I said, you've got to know they know what they're doing.
Yes.
But together, now we're a team. We've been
Yeah.
in the trenches together. We went through a storm. Now we're a team.
I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not asking for a seat at the table. My friends, this is the first generation of us. We have a huge opportunity. We have power and influence and wealth. And we can start building the tables where we get the prime seats. Today, we want to invite you to join us as investors in venture. I know no one's asked you to do it before. It might be something that seems scary or foreign, but I promise you it's not that different than investing in a mutual fund where your retirement funds are. I want you to lean in and just learn a little bit more. How about making a commitment that in the next 12 months, you can give yourself 12 months to figure it out and to take a step? I want to invite you to be part of the new table of power and influence and wealth. You're invited. I want to sit at the table with you because we're going to make big change. We're going to make the world we've been dreaming of. Oh my goodness. Anybody who gets to work with you on all the various things that you do is so lucky to be able to get that sense of like that elevation, right? And I think that's
Yes.
what maybe that's my theme for you too, is like
Ah,
you just
elevate. Yes.
elevate everyone around you. Would you mind if I just ask you, what was the moment and what's your and how did it start? How's your vision for Black women on boards? To me, this is one of the great things. You look at the numbers, it seemed impossible to move that many Black women into boards, and look what you've done. And
Yeah.
you've
And I
changed
mean,
everybody's conversation. So any day now it's gonna be, well, of course, if you want to have a good board, you better have Black women on your board. And who do you go to? Right?
it was so interesting. My co-founder, Marlene, and I were having a conversation during the tumultuous summer of 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. And me, as you know, we had a pandemic, and we were getting these phone calls and realizing that the flywheel, the circle wasn't including enough of us, right? Because we all knew a lot of people that were getting no phone calls. And
Yeah.
we didn't even get together for 2 years. And I mean, we're 200 men. We started with 18 members on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And back to just that empowering, it is we're there to support each other, to expand the flywheel with our partners, our sponsors, but also to support each other in thinking about board work and preparing for that first interview, preparing for leadership on boards. And more, Julie, to me, the opportunity is how do we continue to get more of us at the top of their game in the C-suite, because ultimately that's the pipeline for boards. So we're really there to support that. And we're not, as you know, we partner with you, we partner with many great organizations. I was on a phone call today earlier, we were talking with some East Coast organizations, but our goal is really to increase our network, know that people have support. One of our members, I just send her a text message once a week. Okay, where are we on the goals? Just that
Mm.
little glimmer of just
Good.
support. I'm cheering
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah.
but you need to own this, right? And so that's what we're there to do. And you're right, we're making a difference. We're 200 members strong. We have members that live in Asia, in Europe. We're continuing to expand. It's not about BWOB, but it is about our ability to be that flywheel and support network for each other.
Yeah. Just today, as we're recording this podcast, Florida just passed a law. Anyone
Mm.
listening to this, I am absolutely adamantly against anything that undermines the progress of women and people of color in this country. There's a law saying that you can't have D&I focus initiatives. I don't know, I haven't read
Yeah.
the entire law, but it's unacceptable. Why is it so important that we actually have why do you even need a Black women on boards organization? Isn't it a meritocracy, Robin?
Yeah. As I reflected on 2023 and think about this year, Julie, and it's still early, I think one of the greatest messages that we need to get across to the world, to America, is that diversity of thought, DE&I, Black women, persons of color, men, LGBTQ, when you have diverse thinking, it's a proven fact you do better. And I think we're in this world sometimes where we think there's a finite number of roles. And the multiplier effect of diversity is still not fully embraced. It's known, it's not
Well, there's
embraced.
data, but the data doesn't seem
The
to get
data, right?
in our core thinking and beliefs.
By
So
some, not by all, and like I said, I see it every single day. I saw it in the team that I built at Gilead. I see it in many of the boardrooms, and I think the difference is there is the verbiage of DE&I, and there's the truth of diversity of thought when it's embedded in your culture, when it's embedded in your products, when you truly make it, it's just the right thing to do. I loved Jamie Dimon's comments the other day that I am who I am, but I truly know the value that if any
yeah,
group is left behind or not given a fair opportunity to succeed, it's just not good business.
right.
And to me, DE and I, ESG, it's about green. It's like we want to expand the flywheel for all. And when we do that, our economy, our world, it's going to be better. It's going to be more profitable and we're going to win. And I think when you don't do it, when you have homogenous thinking, group think is not a good thing. We all know that.
Oh, it's absolutely dangerous, and we've seen the evidence of that over and over.
So,
But I just want to double down on, you said it's about the green, and right now we're sort of in the early 2024 in a fragile recovery. We're sort of in trying to move our economy through this downturn, and who's going to start the next company that's going to create tons of jobs? And if we aren't fueling
yeah,
all of our best
right.
thinking, creating the innovations that are going to start whatever is next tomorrow. I was just on a call this morning with someone and she was talking to me about, she's like, oh, I'm taking MIDI, which I go to MIDI and taking hormone replacement therapy. I was like, me too. And it ends up there's not enough progesterone being made because all of a sudden all of us are realizing we don't have to deal with the repercussions of menopause with the bone density issues and the heart issues and all the things that happen because of menopause. All of a sudden there's an economic opportunity, not just with MIDI, the company, but it's like whoever's making the progesterone, they all of a sudden have a huge new demand of 50-year-old women where we have more money now than we ever have because our kids are hopefully being,
Yes.
off the dole
Yes.
and before we were on limited income. So huge economic opportunity. And this is,
Exactly. If you think about, one of my give back is the MasterCard Foundation, a wonderful organization that's supporting Africa. Well, guess where the majority of the youth under the age 30 are going to be over the next 10 years.
yeah.
Right. And so I think we can underestimate communities and the impact, et cetera. But you're right.
My Rwandan daughter saw you get that award and cried.
Oh,
She's a mechanical engineer working driverless car technology. There's no one smarter or better for this
yes.
to create the next innovation than her. All right, we're almost out of time, but I would just love to hear who inspires you. What is it that makes you get up in the morning and get out
So
there?
I would say what inspired me is really just making a difference and living a life of purpose. And I say that is at 25 or 30, your purpose is to double down and be the best you can be so you can turn around at some point and help the next person up the
Yeah.
ladder. I'm in a different stage at my life when I can give back. In terms of who, so many, Julie. I mean, those who use their platforms to help others and change the world and make it a better place. And I think most importantly, you don't have to be famous to
Yeah.
inspire. I think we all can give others a glimpse of hope that they too can make a difference. And you talked about your Rwandan daughter. It's just reaching out and letting people know, I see you.
Yeah.
I'm here for you. But my parents inspired me so much because they were entrepreneurs, but my father was a fireman. My mother worked in the school system supporting the superintendent. But they instilled in my brother and I the sense that we could do anything we wanted to do if we were willing to work hard enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because they helped us believe in ourselves. I'm not saying we always did, but those words that they constantly echo to us were instrumental to me. They're things I tell my kids, those that I mentor. So for me, helping another person see something in them that they don't necessarily see, those are the people that inspire me.
Robin, thank you so much for this
Thank you.
conversation today. You've inspired me. I really feel like the ripple effect for everyone listening to this is going to be significant.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Julie. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.